Come on and get me! Don't shoot me! That's too easy! Fear man! Come and get me! I know you killed Tony! So come on, chicken shit! Come on!
What up, y'all? It's your boy, Mr. Marsharp, Shortman Filmworks in the building, and we have another episode of the Everyday Man's Film Reviews for you guys this evening. Well, no, not this evening. It's morning time. So we have another episode of the Everyday Man Film Reviews for you guys this morning, all right? All right, so today we're going to be talking about the 1988 classic, and it's a classic film to me because y'all know my 80s films. I love my 80s films, and more than likely, all the time I'll be talking about these 80s films, they always going to be classics to me. But we're talking about the 1988 classic, Action Jackson, starring Carl Weathers, Craig T. Nelson, Bill Duke, Vanity, Sharon Stone. There are a whole slew of 80s faces that was in this movie. You know, if you've seen any movie in the 80s, typically you've seen a lot of the same actors and actresses recycled in these movies, you know. So you see a lot of faces pop up in this movie, you know. So yeah, it's a whole lot of faces inside of this movie, you know what I mean? So yeah, man, 1988 Action Jackson. I was introduced to this movie. Me, my mother, and my brother went down to the Duffield Theater, downtown Brooklyn, on Duffield Street, and we seen this movie. I don't know why I got memories of this movie being I don't know why I have memories of this movie coming out earlier than 88. You know, I kind of feel like it came out in 86 or 87, but that just might be, you know, my young brain, my young brain at the time messing with me, making me think it came out earlier than that. But it came out in 88, and this has been one of my favorite action movies of all time. You know, just finished watching it a couple of days ago because we all know what happened, and I'm gonna get to that. But just finished watching it a couple of days ago, and it still brings back those same memories, man. It brings back those same memories of when I first saw this movie. You know, when I first saw this movie, I was just like blown away. I was blown away by the movie, you know what I mean? Because I've always been into action movies and that kind of genre, you know, from watching Schwarzenegger to watching Sylvester Stallone, and then, you know, Carl Weathers. And it seemed like with this movie, Carl Weathers was kind of on a come up. You know, my introduction to Carl Weathers, as I told y'all in my other videos, was from the Rocky movies. You know, and my introduction to him was from Rocky 4. You know, he was in Rocky 4. I think I had seen him in a couple other TV shows, and then he was in what's the movie? I'm saying what's the movie, which is one of the best Schwarzenegger movies. He was in Predator, and then after Predator, I think he was in this. After Predator, so we kind of seen Carl Weathers coming, you know, climbing that ladder. So he had his own vehicle. You know, they gave him his own movie. He had his own vehicle, and to me, Carl Weathers shined. To me, Carl Weathers shined in all his films. He shined in all his films. You know what I mean? So I feel like with this movie, this was his chance to really this was his chance to get pushed to be that next big action star. You know what I mean? And to me, I feel like the movie worked well. It worked well. I hear a lot of mixed reviews on the internet about this film. Some people like it. Some people don't like it. Some people say it's a cheese fest. Some people's like, oh my God, this is like, you know, over the top action in this film. You know what I mean? So I get a lot of mixed reviews, but I'm one of them people that love the film. You know what I mean? So brief synopsis of the film. You know, you got Sergeant Jericho Jackson, and he's after Peter Delaplane, who's I want to say he's an entrepreneur, but he's the corporate man. He's the big dude, corporate man inside of an auto company where he's pushing his cars, and you know, he's coming up through the ranks. But he got a whole lot of other shady shit going on with him too. You know, he's involved in a lot of murders. He's involved in a lot of murders. You know, he has a wife. He's got a side piece. You know, so I don't want to say typical man of power, but kind of typical man of power. You know what I mean? So he has his own things going on, and he has you know, him and Jericho Jackson got a beef, man. And him and Jericho Jackson got a beef, and then you follow that beef, you know, throughout the movie. You know what I mean? So I would tell people to check this movie out. If you haven't checked this movie out, if you are of a younger generation, I would say check this movie out because it's different from all these movies out here today. And I think, to me, people that grew up in my era, judge a lot of movies that came out in the 80s, and we judge a lot of movies that come out now from that 80s standard. You know what I mean? And it's just one of them. It's one of them things. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people that grew up with me in my age bracket, like me and my best friend, we was talking about it. We was talking about this last week, and he went out and bought Action Jackson after, like I said, I'm going to get to it. He went out and bought Action Jackson last week, and then he sent me a couple clips, and I sent him a couple clips. So we was going back and forth with this movie. You know what I'm saying? So, I love this movie. You know what I mean? I love this movie, and I'm trying to stay away from it, but I'm gonna get straight to it. Which, this is probably going to keep the video nice and short, because usually my videos are kind of long, so it's going to keep it kind of short. But in his death, man, Carl Weathers passed away last Friday. You know what I'm saying? And he passed away last Friday. And like I said, my best friend, he told me, he sent me a message. It was like, yo, Carl Weathers is gone, man. It was kind of one of them things. It was like, yo, for real? Seriously? And we all know, we all gotta go. We all gotta get up out of here. We all gotta go. But now it's I don't want to say it's weird, but it's kind of weird because you grew up with these actors, and you grew up with these people, and you kind of get a sense of, like, almost like you know them. You don't know them, but you kind of feel like you know them. You invite them into your homes, you watch them on TV, you go see their films, and it's kind of like you get a sense of personal attachment, to these people. You know what I mean? A lot of the childhood people that I grew up with watching movies, they getting up out of here, man. They getting up out of here. And Carl, you know it's gonna happen, but it's one of them things that you never feel like it's gonna happen. It's kind of like it kind of bangs against each other. It's gonna happen, but you kind of feel like it's not gonna happen. And when you hear about it, it kind of takes you by surprise, because you're like, wow, never thought. You kind of feel like, I never thought it would happen. But it's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? So it kind of was one of them things where when he told me, I was like, damn, Carl Weathers is gone, man. And I immediately went back to this movie. And the funny thing about it is, like I said, my introduction to Carl Weathers was through Rocky IV. But with his death, my mind immediately went back to this movie. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like with Carl Weathers, man, Carl Weathers was the precursor. He was the precursor, or the prerequisite. He was the prerequisite of a Wesley Snipes, a Michael Jai White. I'm trying to think of other black action stars that pretty much came on the scene. I want to say Lawrence Fishburne, but Lawrence Fishburne didn't really do none of action until The Matrix. But if anything, I would say he's the prerequisite to Wesley Snipes. Because if you think about what Wesley Snipes started doing in the 90s, Carl Weathers was doing that in the 80s, in the late 70s and the early 80s. Carl Weathers was that dude that was like, he was the blueprint. He was the blueprint. Nice looking dude, dark guy. He was dark, black guy, nice looking dude, chiseled, muscled up, can do the action, and he had the dramatic chops. You know what I'm saying? And if you think about it, he's kind of like what Wesley Snipes was in the 90s. Wesley Snipes, good looking dude, can do the martial arts, had the action chops, but also had the dramatic chops to go along with it too. So with Action Jackson, I kind of feel like at the time, and as I gotten older and I realize it now, I kind of feel like in '88, America wasn't ready for somebody like Carl Weathers. You know what I mean? America just wasn't ready for him. They weren't ready for this black dude to come on the screen and do the things that his white counterparts were doing. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to make it a racial thing, but at the particular time, that's what it was. You know what I mean? You had Arnold doing the thing. Arnold and Schwarzenegger was like the two biggest action stars in the 80s. And then with Carl Weathers coming up, you kind of felt like Carl Weathers was about to be in that top tier. You know what I mean? Because like I said, he had the Rocky movies. He did Predator along with Schwarzenegger. And then now you had Action Jackson come right behind that. So I just feel like it was one of them things where America just wasn't ready for the force that was Carl Weathers. You know, because Carl Weathers was a force, man. He was a force, man. He had a screen presence. When he was on that screen, you could not take your eyes off him. You know, I was watching Action Jackson this weekend, and in the scenes that he's in, you cannot take your eyes off him because he has that much charisma when he was doing what he was doing. You know what I'm saying? You know, and he's had other roles beyond that. You know, he has Action Jackson, and then he had some TV roles, and I think he started gaining more. He gained a little bit more, not ground, but he kind of dwindled down a little bit. But then it picked back up when he did Happy Gilmore. Even doing Happy Gilmore, that wasn't action; it was comedy. You know what I mean? And it put him in another light. Put him in another light. You saw him in another perspective when he did the comedy. You know what I mean? And then, as of recently, he was doing The Mandalorian. Now, I'm not that much of a Star Wars fan. I know about it, and I ain't gonna say really. I didn't watch none of The Mandalorian, but I've seen little scenes where he was in there, and I was like, oh man, they got Carl Weathers back. Carl Weathers is still doing it. You know what I'm saying? So it was nice to know that he was still getting work and he was still being recognized for what he did. You know what I mean? He made a huge contribution to the film world. I know he made a huge contribution in my life, you know what I mean? Because when I seen Action Jackson, I was 8 years old, you know, so seeing that on the screen, you say, hey, there's a guy out here, he looks just like me, and he's doing something that I love. He's doing something that I fell in love with when I was 4 or 5 years old. He's doing something that I couldn't particularly see myself doing when I was younger, but then I see him on the screen and it's like, wow, he looks like me. You know what I mean? And for a young black child coming up, you see something like that, you like, wow, you know, if he's doing it, then I can do it too. You know what I mean? So it gives you that push, it gives you that push and gives you that motivation. And I think, you know, even seeing people like him, I think that inspired me too, subconsciously, that hey, let me get my workout in, because you see this guy, you know, he's chiseled up, he's on the screen, he's chiseled up, look good, doing what he's doing, you know, and I'm like, oh, okay, you know, and I think about that now as I get older. Like, I think a lot of that influenced me as I started getting older, you know what I mean? So we lost a good one, man. We lost a good one, along with other ones too, but you know, we lost a good one, and Carl Weathers definitely was a force to be reckoned with on that screen, man. You know, I like I said, man, I love Action Jackson. I love that movie. You know what I'm saying? So kudos to Carl Weathers for making that contribution and doing what he's doing. You know what I'm saying? And I kind of veered off a little bit. This is why I kind of want to wait. I wanted to wait until the end, and I kind of veered off because I wanted to talk about him, and I wanted to talk about, you know, the impact that, you know, particularly the impact that he made in my life, and watching him on that screen. You know what I'm saying? You know, but I'm going back to Action Jackson, going back to the movie, you know, like I said, man, there was a lot of faces in this movie. Carl Weathers was in this movie. Vanity, who at the time was the baddest chick in the game. You know what I mean? You seen Vanity on the screen, it was just like, oh my God, this is just beauty personified, man. You know, Vanity was just like, whew. She was that chick, man. She was that chick in the 80s, man, from The Last Dragon. And then you seen her in this movie. It was like, oh my God, yo. Woo! Vanity was the shit, man. She was that girl, man. Then you had who else was in this movie, man? Bill Duke was in this movie. He played the police captain. And he played the police captain differently from any of these other police captains that you saw in these 80s movies. You know, in Beverly Hills Cop, you had the yelling captain. In 48 Hours, you had that captain who was always yelling, had the hardcoreness about him, where he was always screaming. And then you had this take of the police captain, who Bill Duke played him in a real smooth, cool, subtle way. You know what I mean? And kudos to Bill Duke, because I don't think anybody else would have been able to do it like Bill Duke. I think if somebody else would have did it differently, if somebody else would have played that part, they probably would have did it, you know, in the style of that 80s police captain. But Bill Duke chose to go in a different direction, and I think when he chose to go in a different direction, and it served the movie. I think it served the movie because he was more calm, he was more cool, he was more collect. So shout out to Bill Duke for his take on a police captain. Who else was in this film, man? My man Biff from Back to the Future. He played one of the police officers. Billy from 48 Hours and Predator. He was in the movie. Oh man, it's so many different faces in there, man. My man from Die Hard is in the movie. The one that played the limo driver, he's got a small part in the movie. Oh, who else in it? Sharon Stone. Young Sharon Stone is in this film, man. And I don't want to say this was her first feature film, but this is the film I can remember seeing her in. Because I remember when I seen her in what was the next movie I seen Sharon Stone in? I want to say, no, it wasn't Basic Instinct, but the next film I seen her in was oh God, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, Total Recall. That was the next movie I seen her in. And I remember seeing her in Total Recall, and I was like, yo, I seen this chick somewhere before, and I could not put my finger on it. And I was like, yo, I seen her. Her face looks so familiar. I seen her. And then I think like a couple years later, I seen Action Jackson. I was like, oh, there she go. You know what I mean? And it didn't even dawn on me when I seen her in Basic Instinct. All I knew was I seen her in Total Recall, and then I seen her in Basic Instinct, but I was like, yo, I don't know where else I seen her from, but I seen her in something way before Total Recall. And it happened to be Action Jackson. And I actually happened to watch Action Jackson like a few years later after I seen Basic Instinct. Then it dawned on me. I was like, oh, that's why I seen it at. You know, so she's in there. Craig T. Nelson, who plays Peter Delaplane, he does a good job being a villain. You know what I mean? I think I don't know if he played any other villains after this. You know what I mean? He was known for being in Coach, the TV show, but I don't know if he was. Again, I don't know if he played any other villains. You know, it kind of seemed like he kind of played almost like the straight character in a lot of things that I've seen him in. You know, he was in Coach, and he was in the movie with Ryan Reynolds, The Proposal. That's the last thing I remember seeing him in was The Proposal. And I know he's probably been in other things after that, but his face always stood out to me after Action Jackson, even before the TV show Coach. I knew he was in Coach, but he really stood out to me in Action Jackson. That's what I always remember his face from. That's all I can think about. Who else was in this movie, man? But like I said, man, if you was an actor in the 80s and you had some kind of star presence, or you've been in any 80s movie, 9 times out of 10 you saw that face in this movie. You know, I think they plucked a lot of people and put them in this film, man. You know, but to me, I feel like it made the movie. To me, it made the movie great, man. It made the movie awesome. You know, from the villains, you got a lot of villains that was in. You got a lot of villains that was in a lot of 80s movies. They was in this movie, so it's kind of almost like they had their go-to people that they would go to, in the 80s. You know what I mean? And you know, this one is no exception. So shout out to the whole Action Jackson crew, to the directors and the actors and everybody who did whatever they needed to do to put this movie together. You know, it was produced. Did Joe Silver produce this movie? I think Joe Silver produced this movie. You know, and Joe Silver was known for doing a lot of those action movies in the 80s. You know what I mean? So, and I think he did. I want to say that he this is under his production. So shout out to him too. You know, so I'm getting to the scale. So getting to the scale because I kind of jumped around and moved around. But getting to the scale, I give Action Jackson 5 thumbs up. Y'all knew this was coming. 5 thumbs up for Action Jackson. Shout out to Carl Weathers. Rest in peace, or like they say now, rest in power. Rest in power to Carl Weathers. You'll never know the impact. Well, you'll never know the impact that you made on not only the world, but the impression that you made on me, other young black children who went out and seen this movie. Because I remember a lot of times too, being in school, we would talk about this movie, especially when he flipped over the car. Yeah, of course, yeah, you see it now, you know it's a stuntman. But at that time, at 8 years old, you think these are the people really doing this thing, you know what I mean? So just the contribution of being in school and all of us are talking about this movie. And like I said, amongst my friends, we talked about this movie and we love this movie. You know what I mean? So, you know, shout out to Carl Weathers, you know, definitely rest in power, rest in peace, man. You will forever be missed. You will forever be remembered as being an icon in film history, and just being a overall great human being, and just leaving your contribution on the world. You might be gone from us in the physical presence. You might not be here, but your films and your roles will live on, forever. So shout out to Carl Weathers. All right. So with that being said, this is I'm getting all, I like, once again, I gotta get my intro, I gotta get my outro together again. I'm Mr. Marshawn. This is Short Man Film Works, and these are the Everyday Man's Film Reviews. Y'all take care. Y'all have a good night. And before I even do all of that, I gotta do all this over. Before I even do all of that, because I missed a whole lot of stuff. If you like this video, like, comment, subscribe. Put some comments down below. Let me know how you feel about Action Jackson. Let me know how you feel about Carl Weathers. How you feel about what kind of impact he made inside of your life. You know what I mean? So that's why I had wanted to wait and do all of this at the end, because I wanted to follow my little format, but I kind of just went all over the place. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe. Show your boy some love. Help me out. Check out the channel. Check out a lot of previous videos I've done. And check out my Motivational Mondays, man. I've been doing this thing called Motivational Mondays, where every week I try to give a little message of pushing to go every day, going after what you want to go after, and just little tidbits of a little bit of motivation, just to keep you going throughout your day and going throughout your week. All right. So check out Motivational Mondays. All right. So let's do this again. I'm Mr. Marshall. This is the Everyday Man's Film Reviews, and this is Short Man Film Works. All right. Y'all take care. Y'all have a good day, and I will see y'all on the next one.